hopped into a vehicle with somebody.
If anybody has done anything wrong, please just bring it home. It's all we want.
T-Mobile, start 2020 off with a deal on iPhone 11 that'll have you seeing double, all on T-Mobile's newest most powerful signal. Get twice the deal with 2 lines of unlimited for $90. 2 iPhone 11s on us. Only at T-Mobile.
What do kids' guitars and these potted plants have in common? They're both the result of someone starting a business. And like a million other businesses, they're supported by Shopify. We do everything we can to support independent businesses. That's why everything in this ad is from their stores. All this and all this. Even the light bulb. See all the ways we're supporting independence at shopify.com/independent.
Across the country, I'm Tony the Tiger, and I'm on a mission to fix that. So the whole
Oh, we're going to talk about Desert Sentinel's latest video. If y'all saw it, hopefully I can get Desert Sentinel in here. But yeah, I'd say that old Beware Mouse is one big giant piece of shit. Come on in, GD. There's the link to get on the stream. Hey, I got a live stream going. Panel, if you guys want to get on it. Okay. What's up, I could be? Ben, just Ben, DTD Grish, Joe, Indigo, Not News Patrick, GD. In it to win it. You're my biggest fan. You got to be bigger than me, man. We could talk about Almost Park. Anybody got yeah, Tormund's a legend. He taught me a thing or two because I misread him. He bit the shit out of me. Ronan. You win in it to win it. You are my biggest fan. Oh, I took pictures, Frog. I got him in the. I let him run loose, and he got into the bathtub, and I put some warm water in there for him, and he was lounging in there, and I went to pick him up, and he said, "Nah, I'm not ready to go," and he bit the shit out of me. Well, I was first. Tell everybody to come over here. Now that would be funny. Good. GD is a mod. Who else could be a mod? Good. GD is a mod. Who else could be a mod? Good. GD is a mod. Who else could be a mod? I'm gonna put Frog as a mod. Yeah, my rules for modding are real easy. You don't delete anybody unless they're a racist cocksucker starting shit. They're doxing people or they're making death threats. Joe wants to be a mod, you're mod. There he is. Sweet. Sorry, I was
Hello
sleeping
there.
at the wheel. I was sleeping at the wheel there, man.
Well, we were in the discords and discussing with a balance, and he wasn't quite ready to go. And we decided just to pop over here since you had it already started up. Hopefully, we can get the word out to individuals that this is where we've ended up and not a channel. Maybe we'll do something later over there.
Right on. Yeah, it sounds a lot different than his story.
Yeah, and it was very short as the incident and leading up to it. And yeah, it does corroborate a few things that were told in the narratives between law enforcement and Rex himself, as far as maybe certain attitudes as to what occurred.
Well, it's amazing you can even get a straight story out of old Beware Mouse. Is that you or me that's making that noise?
or a crackling. I bought a new headset and I got it in, and I had to get an adapter for it because it was a gamer headset. And once I got it all together, I don't know, the volume button, I believe, on the headset was faulty, and I couldn't hear anything out of the left ear unless it was in a certain position.
It's
So
having a seizure.
Yeah, I had to send it back. Hopefully they'll send me a replacement, as an eBay thing. So I'm on a headset that I know is faulty.
Right on. Right on. It works. But yeah, it's amazing you can get any kind of a straight story out of Mouse because he wants to deflect and go everywhere else but where the question was. Every time I heard him talk, I just quit watching him. He's not worth it.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a was like just waking up or something. I was trying to get his head straight. I mean, me as well. I've been trying to get my head straight.
You're not holding your wire right.
Okay. Any better?
A little.
Yeah, this is the difficulty I'm having with this thing. I've yanked on it too many times.
Yeah, I got mine off of Amazon. It's like $27.
Anything better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just depends on how I wrap it up and not move around too much. I've yanked on it too many times where I like lay it across the chair and you go to get up.
Yeah.
Or you sit on it or you drop it or,
Always.
So what, I mean, this is kind of the tail end of my investigation at the moment, as far as any records I have. That this is it, just to let everybody know. I did put in for another request because I was kind of looking at, what was going to be the end chapter of all this, and basing that end chapter on the case file. And there's 2 motions that were filed, and I believe those motions were to like commute the sentence or something like that. And I put in a request asking for those motions. Both motions were denied, by the way. And I didn't get a response, and I think it's because I went back to an original email and just replied to it. May have been lost. So I think I'm going to have to call Will County clerks and start fresh, and see what I can get out of that. However, hey, Balance Frog, I'm thinking about asking a couple more questions of Romeoville, just based on what Rex has been talking about. And now, I never knew who this person was, that, the skunk water or star coming out of the woodworks all of a sudden and being the all-knowing witness on Rex's behalf. It's neither here nor there to me. However, Rex has been discussing for a very long time about how many people were in the home and how many witnesses he had, and whether or not there was anybody else questioned in this case. Were there witnesses? Were statements submitted from those witnesses? I don't know, because nothing in the police narrative, nothing in his statement, nothing in the victim's statement, other than people being present and them going to a private area. Is there anything that tells me that there was any sort of witness statement?
Yeah.
Now, I know the big question on many people's minds is Warfield.
That's one of his aliases or something.
Well, yes, it is. And some people may be wondering where that name came from. Now, I've got a case here back from 1987, and this case went to events archived to tape. So there isn't much information online other than the parties involved in the matter of pro se, Frederickson Rex, and then a defendant. Oh, wait, plaintiff in the matter of attorney pro se, defendant Rex Frederickson, attorney Zahor Alonzo H, and then defendant Warfield Angie. Now, I believe Angie Warfield is one of Rex's exes.
So this happened after he had children and all that then?
Oh, I believe so, yeah.
Or during the time, I guess.
Well, there's also like
excuse me.
There's also like a case within the record as far as paternity issues, and then a couple with the same Angie or Angela with the a different last name. Let me see if this is kind of hard to fool with. And
Rex Warfield. Rex Warfield.
Okay. I know that there was another case here, and that was 87. There was a case in 86 with an Angela Warfield, and that was for paternity. And then I believe what possibly could have been in 87, the marriage certificate. I think maybe that might have just been the issuance of marriage certificate. I don't know. Seems awfully strange to have an attorney's name or something. Maybe it's just the way they have it listed in there. Maybe it was like the justice of the peace's name or something. But then there was a couple in 1998. There's a couple of separately numbered cases for protection orders. And this was from an Angela Martin.
So that's probably the same person.
That's what I'm assuming. It's the same person. May have, the divorce had occurred at some juncture between that decade, and may have been remarried and had a different last name. And then Rex may have been causing some sort of issue with this person and filed protection orders.
Not Rex. He wouldn't do that.
But the name, the mystery where people have seen this name as an alias in his registry, that's where the name has come from. And also he used this as an alias during this incident.
So she was 15 years old, essentially, when they met at Steamer's Hot Dogs. He introduced himself by saying, "Hi, would you marry me?" Sounds like Rex.
And that's in the narratives. That's part of the narrative in the police report. I don't think he put that in his own written statement, but it is in what the police wrote down during the interview. That, if you recall, that he stated that she looked depressed, and I was just trying to cheer her up.
What business could you imagine for yourself being? I think there's lots of reasons why people talk to random, teenagers, or maybe does that, I guess back in those, it was a little different back then, I guess, but I mean, not that much different. I mean, they keep hanging on to this excuse, and you hear it a lot when the situation pops up about, talking about our grandparents, for instance, and I'm in my 40s, their grandparents, theirs after that, back in those days, it was a different time. And, Rex, it was still inappropriate. Nonetheless, it's still inappropriate. 2001 was not that difficult. The environment socially was not one where a 36-year-old man or a 38-year-old man tells a 15, 16-year-old girl, what interest does that person have in a restaurant? I could see if the individual may be in distress or outside crying or seemingly homeless, and you want to ask some questions. But dude, I mean, I don't know how you could look at it any different. He's talking about Sunbird Entertainment, and why don't you come over to my house? I want to tell you a little bit about it. As soon as she gets there, let's go in my bedroom, and I'll express some details. Holy fuck, boys! I mean, there's you can't not interpret that any other way than what it is. I'm trying to look for something that, maybe he found himself in a situation where things got out of control, and it doesn't look like it. Like, I mean, that's a pretty solid story. And so she went to her high school counselor, essentially, and talked to that person about what was bothering her.
Thank God she did.
Yeah.
Or the way I read it, was approached asking, obviously there was some immediate change in demeanor that caused a school counselor to walk up to her and ask her what was wrong.
Yeah. I was really upset and did not tell anybody about it until my counselor, I see, yes, asked me what was bothering me. And I'm really sorry for this victim here. I mean, oh boy.
Now, and hey, Val, and now since this is like of the end of this so far, like I was mentioning earlier, A Balance, that I have nothing else. This is it. I've put in for some further requests, and I may ask some more questions of Romeoville just to clear a few matters up, since Rex seems to bring it up so often. The biggest issue that I see with this whole situation is the fact that after 2 years of trial, it was coming up to, call a jury and actually go through the process. He pled guilty. So anything that is said after the fact is moot.
Yeah.
Nothing was cross-examined. The victim wasn't brought up to testify. There was no witnesses that were brought in to testify. Nobody was cross-examined on any of this. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, pled 3 charges. Pled guilty to all 3. I mean,
and if you look at the elements of the crime, that seems to be coming up quite a bit today. Of course, with the issue with Jack Miller's arrest, that you have to meet the elements of the crime. And I have posted in my community the statute, and you read the statute and you read Rex's own written statement. He admits to those elements, and they've separated it and, into the 3 separate counts for, the 3 separate contacts that he performed in the same incident.
So on Tuesday, I'm sorry to read this up. So I'm just thinking about how Rex is going to play this. I mean, on May 25th or May 5th, 28th, May 28th, 01, I went to his house, 428 Dalhart. Now, she went to the house again the next day, and there were some others there. So we went to his room to talk about his business without being distracted by their noise. So is that where he is getting the witnesses being there? That's fine. So that's where he likes to pick up the narrative and take over pretty much every time. Not that I'm going to go and challenging him, Rex. If you're there, please click on the link, and I'm pretty sure Sasquatch will let you up to discuss this and let you have your 2 cents. But to me, he then jumps to like the fact that he's paid his time, which is odd because he's on the sex offender registry. I mean, you're on that for life. It's cut and dry, but he's innocent. Nothing happened. He was, it's been everything but this. I really appreciate this, this Desert, because no matter what, it does bring us to some sort of closure about this. Now,
well, she's got to live with it the rest of her life. He didn't pay near what she's going through.
No, and that you brought that up, Sasquatch. Do we know if she's living at this moment, or is she incarcerated? As rumor has it, he's said that she's committed suicide.
I don't know.
You want me to answer that?
Well, could you?
Yeah, I can. And I want Rex to know. I know exactly who she is, and I know exactly where she's at. And maybe in a year, I might be able to discuss the situation with her. But until then, I'm going to not say.
Okay. So I'll take it that she is living, and maybe we should take it and treat it as such, with a little bit of respect for her in this.
That seems absolutely fair to me.
Now, this Sunbird, but here he is 20 years later again, and he's still, I noticed his Sunbird Entertainment back up there the other day, and he's selling advertising on this. He's really caught in a tailspin, on repeat, it sounds like, after this has all went down. He's never really gone anywhere with it, with this entertainment business or whatever he is talking about.
Well, you can't reform a child molester.
God damn. I mean, I could not imagine, Sasquatch, just to get it off my chest, I just cannot imagine any excuse in that situation, a 40-year-old man with children ever with anything else on his mind except sex. Like, he got her to his home, he groomed her, made her comfortable, Oh, Jesus, Murphy, the poor girl. No wonder his children don't have much to do with him. Now, do we know any? He says he has 5 children. Do we know if that's accurate, Desert?
I've never really gotten into that. It just wasn't, I don't think, relevant in the case at all. It's what he states. I'm like, okay. And I've always been curious about, now there's 2 ex-wives. I can only see some evidence of one, and maybe some circumstances surrounding what had occurred there. And all this occurred a decade prior to this incident. So was there a wife in between then and the incident? Maybe. But I don't see anything, at least not in Will County. But I did want to fall back a little bit on how he's going to react. Well, we've seen his reaction so far, and I've been taking mental note on some of it, and now drunkenness has been brought into play. His statement that he just got drunk over the weekend when he was brought in to be questioned. He didn't know what he was doing, to all the way to the point of, I never made those statements. It's all false. And he still falls back on this. I took a copy of an ID because I was taking this person into clubs. This was a very short period of time. How many clubs could he have taken this person to? And why wasn't any of what he is stating in his statement, her statement, the police narrative? None of these stories are verifiable with any sort of documentation that I've found so far.
Now, I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill here, but there's another concerning comment. And, his terms for what the action, terms for essentially sex that he's done performed moments before, like he mentioned to a cop, he referred to his actions as spermed or something. Nobody's ever heard that. I've never heard that goddamn term used, but he's now mentioned another term, and oh fuck, I lost it. I apologize. Oh yeah, at least now my rage is over. Now, what is he really describing in his mind? I mean, it can't be the first time. You just don't go to a hot dog stand or Dairy Queen and fall in love with the first 16-year-olds you see every time. I mean, this is probably a pattern of behavior that's just been caught.
Sounds like a hate for women. That's what it sounds like. I mean,
and he's taking it out sexually, you mean? Or he has some sort of issues with women and intimacy, probably. But that's maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse on this yet. But I mean, well, at least now my rage is over. That doesn't sound like the romantic term that you use to your partner. Well, unless you're joking, of course.
Especially right after having sex. I mean,
with a virgin,
or rape or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was rape because she didn't want it.
He did impose his will on that young girl. Absolutely, he did. No question about it in my mind. So for him to go on and fake cry on TV how people are misinterpreting his sexual offense or abuse of a child, in my mind, this is it's everything that abuse is. This is abuse. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
God damn it.
I mean, if that had been my kid, I'm sorry, I'd hunt that motherfucker down.
Oh, fuck, I tell you. No shit. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I just, heaven forbid.
Very slowly.
You know?
I mean, 10,000 cuts. Oh,
it holds your kids tighter knowing this story, you know? I mean, unfortunately, we have to go there and cover it. But Rex Warfield, that's interesting. I wonder how many different things that he's used his names on in the past to that name, Rex Warfield.
There's probably more than that.
So it's going to be interesting. Now we have a location randomly at Stomer's or Steamer's Hot Dogs. So that's a place and that's in the city of.
I would assume Romeoville. I actually have never looked it up. I was trying to verify some of the nightclubs that he claimed to have worked with or at or whatever, and only came up with one that may be that's close enough to Romeoville that may still be in existence 20 years later.
Now, here in 2020, we see the I guess the evolved or what this is all turned into. We have 20 years of evidence that he's probably not moved and really believes in this internet business that's taking off. Christ, I've tried several different angles to hit that and try to actually hear him, sell at me advertising. It's damn near impossible. Nobody's going to ever buy advertising off that guy. It's just, it's a scheme. It's a scheme, really. And it's a scam, every bit of it. He's used the same thing that he goes to air every night with, essentially on that girl. The same pretense, the same Sunbird Entertainment that he flashes on his screen right now. And we all see how he, protects himself from the truth. He'll never, ever allow anybody else to direct the narrative conversation, especially when it comes to this situation. Phone calls to him are difficult.
Another sick fucker, he takes a pee right on TV into a jar. I mean,
Jesus Christ. I mean, that there's something subconscious going on at the same time. He's just so used to never telling the truth and avoiding direct, questions. Like most people would like to a statement to be made up of nothing but, information, not useless information that has nothing pertaining to what you're actually talking about. I mean, you can see how these things are manifesting themselves in his psyche. It's just shocking.
No, I really enjoyed your last conversation with him when you were actually trying to get him to sell you what he was, peddling here, and you were asking him some questions on how this works and the fact that you have businesses, and if you wanted to advertise on his platforms or his servers, how would you be able to do that?
Listen, yep. I mean, that's how it is in the real world, Rex. Rex has never been there. I mean, you don't want to yammer your customer to death talking about the psychology or the philosophy behind whatever. Holy Christ, people would run the other way. I mean, give it to the person in a sentence. But I mean, it's difficult to get him to speak on anything. He just has to relate everything back to, 0404, for instance, or Eric Brandt. But then he'll bounce back and forth. I mean, he needs to learn how to internalize and internalize and interpret. He's not doing anything normal that people do. He just unfilters, reacts, and controls narratives using all this verbal judo and these tricks that he's claimed. And gaslighting, this term gaslighting, he is a master at that. Just basically what that is in my mind, it's just going up and lying to somebody and telling them that they did something and creating the circumstances around it, and controlling that entire situation, and with the end goal in mind to separate that person from their money or belief, for instance.
Come on, join the panel, Tex Rose.
Hey, I've got something though. I see Bao in here. I believe Bao to be a very intelligent human being, and I wanted to get his take on it. What do you think about all this, Bao?
I think it's very unfortunate that these things happen to people, and I think discussing it puts a little bit of a light on it for maybe a victim that shouldn't have gotten the attention that would stop this kind of things from happening.
Thanks, Bao. I mean, I've tried to separate myself from the fact of who we're discussing, the fact that Rex is known to us. He's a personality on YouTube. Back in November, when I tried to be unbiased and just ask him, give us the details. What you keep discussing your facts that this was a bad arrest, and you have all the documentation. And then he set me off to discover it on my own. And during this process, I'm just now looking at this more so as a case study. It could have been John Smith or Michael Jordan. I don't care. At this point in my mind, it's just a discussion on this case. And I think a lot of people can learn from it, especially when you are accused of a crime and you're brought in for questioning, and what you say or do and how you proceed from there. And then especially going all the way up to the point of about to, I'm assuming, call a jury in to have this adjudicated, and you just plead guilty. So once you plead guilty, you're it. You've agreed to all of the evidence that may have been presented towards you, but you're pleading guilty to the charges as written. Well, that's about what I can say about it at this point in the juncture. What do you guys think?
That sounds pretty much it. I mean, other than just trashing Rex, I mean, I don't see that any more can really be said about it. I mean,
and I did want to point out that there is one little bit of truth in what he does say. Is there is no evidence of that he's ever done this since. We have to keep that in mind. As far as what repercussions he had because he pled guilty, being in that area, I know it's a suburb. I don't know how big it is. Certainly people knew who he was. Some of the things that I did discover as far as the victim's name, it's a prominent name in the area. Maybe it's an old family that's been in that area for quite some time. Maybe even some of the founding fathers of that area. Who knows? His subsequent homelessness because of it, his back and forth, his being incarcerated over his failure to register, the circumstances surrounding that he asserts that the local law enforcement agencies didn't follow their procedures, and he's filed appeals that apparently have gone up to the state Supreme Court level, I believe. I know he keeps saying Supreme Court, but a lot of people get that mixed up with with SCOTUS. I don't see any evidence that it's gone that far. However, there's nothing there that shows that he's ever done anything like this ever again.
Well, that's good in one way. I mean,
Something just doesn't smell right about it, though. I mean, is he on the spectrum in that he doesn't recognize social situations and he has inadvertently put himself in a situation that's got him there in trouble here? No, this happened over the period of a few days. Like, he fell in love, essentially, only he was falling in love with a far younger girl. And so he's going to cling to this fake ID, this fake ID story. And I guess it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it now. Has he served? Is there such a thing as serving your time and doing your time for a sexual offense like this? Well, there's a sex offender registry for a reason. And I mean, I don't know how you can get by in life like this, but god damn, it's such a shame. It's a shame that this sort of thing happens.
I mean, of course, we can get into all the minutiae of those who feel that the sex offendery list is unconstitutional, that people are convicted and either are incarcerated or go on probation like Rex did, where he served probation and that his time is over, and there are consequences apparently for being on that sex offenders list, that there's certain things that could be available to people that aren't available to those on that registry, like Section 8 housing or a certain level of help, or people find out who you are and fire you from your job because they discover later who you are, all of the things that come about it. I mean, I'm not here to beat on Rex as far as this is concerned. This is just fulfilling a promise from me that if he wanted to bring his documents to me and I could go over them and I could make my own decision on what they said, or, but I don't even, who knows if he actually even has the documents anymore. He says he does, but then he says that they were being stored on a computer that he no longer has control over. So I don't know. There's no telling anymore because of all the stories. Mm-hmm. It's just that I told him that if I take the time and money and effort to pull these documents, and I was going to present it in a manner like I did and allow people to make up their own mind about it.
Well, I'd say you did a damn good job of it. I mean, I watched all of your videos on this subject, and you've always kept an objective outlook on it and kept people's names hid where they should have been hid, and let people make up their own minds. You presented the evidence. Here it is. You guys figure it out. I mean, applause to you.
Well, it's a bittersweet bow because and not bow Nguyen. It's a bittersweet bow because, I don't like reading this stuff. And as many times as I had to go over it to get it right, it's disturbing. I was a victim, and many know that. It does come up. I just hope over time, like myself, that his victim has come to some sort of peace over it. I know some circumstances with the victim. Of course, like I mentioned, I know exactly who it is. I know exactly where they are. And Rex led me to the victim. I mean, his own words. And that's what you do. I'm not this big investigative journalist, but I don't think I'm a dumb shit. I can figure things out. I can search around. I can take clues. I mean, most people can pick up on things rather quickly and figure it out on their own. I just don't want to lead to anything. But you know, the only facts remain is the fact that he agreed to everything and pled out guilty. Now, I did hear him the other day when he was discussing things, and this was, I believe, with Cleopatra D, that he says there was a certain level of guilt that he will admit to. Now, whatever that is, he didn't, of course, elaborate on what that level of guilt was. But there's still so many circumstances in the story after the fact, you know, that he's got erectile dysfunction because of a back injury and all of these fun facts that he seems to throw out there. None of it's verifiable that any of this was ever brought forth within the original statements and narratives, then of course is now lost because he was unable or he didn't feel strong enough, or his home circumstances, or, you know, his father's illness. I mean, there seems to be so many different reasons why he just didn't go ahead and take this to trial and present the evidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, generally, if you're innocent, you're going to take it to trial.
Desert, he could have put this all out there and let us make our opinions on it. He hid it. He didn't want it to be known. And now it's out. It is a huge issue for him, I think. And the fact that he pled guilty as a 30-something man to what he knows is a serious charge is going to affect him for the rest of his life. I mean, that just, you know, it's make-believe. The fact that he signed a statement, I mean, he didn't have to do that. He could have pled the fifth and said nothing, but he signed a statement.
Well, I mean, and I don't exactly remember when, and it didn't really affect me so much, other than, you know, it was, Rex has always been kind of a small channel. He's always had a small audience. He has a lot of hubris in this community. I don't think it has really affected him all that much in what he does. In fact, he was talking about how his analytics have gone up, that more people have come to his channel, and he now has all these trolls that he's got to fight off because of it. And, you know, he blocks and bans them quicker than they can subscribe and actually participate. He still has his ability to somehow create his dream platform and sell his advertising. There's nothing preventing him from doing anything at all. And other than these facts coming out and him continually to, and even then he's pretty much, you know, he doesn't discuss it all that much anymore. It's kind of died. It's kind of a non-starter with them at this point. It's like, well, you know, oh well. You know, he can just move on. That and I think everybody else will just move on about the subject also. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's Rex Warfield, Rex Fredrickson, John Smith. It's an interesting case study to just look at this. As a very, you know, it's a very brief case. I mean, there isn't much to it. It's statements, charges, and guilty, other than whatever the emotions were. And we can put this to rest. And I might try and look at a few loose ends, just for mere curiosity's sake. And we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future with all this.
Oh, well, Yeah, I think. Well, I guess we'll see. Rex has really turned it. I'm trying to think. What's really confronting Rex about this is the reality behind it, that other people are determining that, well, not determining it, but coming out with it rather than him. He's trying to go through that threshold a little too early. So he's jumping all over the place with regards to the story. But I mean, I don't think it'll affect him one little bit. He's going to be able to get past this, and it just has to do with lying to yourself. He does plenty of that.
The only kind of thing that I've been thinking upon is his victim, depending on what kind of information the victim gets, has not had access to YouTube. I'm speculating, and whether or not, when this victim gets access to social media and YouTube and discovers Rex and what Rex has been doing for the past several years, I'm wondering where that may take this, but we won't know for at least another year.
Now, I just, I remember why the victim is in jail now. And Rex told that story himself, I believe. You said, Desert.
Yeah, he did. He finally felt. Am I losing my mic again?
It just dropped out. You sound fine. Oh,
Okay.
By the way, on that topic, I got one I just purchased a set of Sony's for $40 on sale on eBay. And they're the best earbuds that I think I've ever used. They have a little bit, how earbuds don't have much bass to them. This one has a little bit of looks like a little sub behind it, but there's a bit more meat behind the earpiece, but they're comfortable. But great value from Amazon.
Somebody suggested to me to get those Astro A10s, and they were like factory refurbished. And when I got mine, it had a little bit of a problem, so I've already shipped it back, and we'll see what they send me. Hopefully I won't have a problem with it. Evidently, it sounded real good. I tried it once, and one earpiece worked and the microphone worked. And they said I sounded really great in Discord, so we'll see in another week.
What does old Rexy boy have planned for 8:00 tonight? Is that a free for all? Like, is he unbanning people from the troll list? Is that his thing? Did you notice? I think it was some sort of countermeasure to what was going to happen after your release.
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I've been saying, and I put the little teaser in last week's, and I believe he should have known exactly what was coming out today. It's his case. I would imagine he would have known exactly, or could recall exactly what was in that statement. So nothing's hidden from him. I mean, he lived it. This was his case. He understands, and besides him and the victim are the only two that really know what happened that day or those days.
I don't know about the rest of the people on the panel, but you're okay to use it as far as I'm concerned. Hey, Balance.
What's that?
This stream, if you want to use it for anything.
I'm getting, I missed so much because of this, and I think I've been following Mouse. If he would just talk, I think things would be a lot easier for him. I mean, the truth is out there now. He doesn't have to have the concern about all these lies and tales that he tells, but he's got so many of them out there. He probably feels to a certain degree obliged to protect those lies,
That's just not right.
No, I can't see I couldn't see any possibility, excuse me, of lying about this situation. Why wouldn't you want people to know the facts if you were truly innocent? That's the bottom line. And I hate to ramble on about it, but Rex, you got to face reality if you're going to get ahead in life. and best be in control of your own reality. You know?
Balance. What's the age of consent in Canada?
Oh, Jesus. That one I'd have to check on because I'm so old, man. It's never, I believe it would probably be 16.
Yeah, you see that? Well, it's 16 here. So unless he raped her. So if
she has a fifth, it happened a day earlier, Frog, and she didn't have her birthday and she remained 15. How different would those charges look?
Oh, that would be rape. 15 and 11 months, and especially the age gap. You know, if it was a 17-year-old with a 15-year-old, there probably would be no prosecution, but you know, the age
38-year-old with a 16-year-old.
That's a fully mature man. I mean, come on.
And I have to look at it that maybe what he did is not illegal where I am. However, I suspect that it is still rape, but it wouldn't fall into the rape of a minor.
So that's the whole thing about the element of the crime in Illinois then and now, even though the statute number has changed, is it was the age gap. I do not recall or looked what the age of consent was in Illinois at that time. It could have been 16. However, the element of the crime states that if it includes 5 or more years of difference in age. So that was a big factor in the charges that were brought against him.
I'm searching that right now. 17 years old was the age of consent in the United States. Let's see. So I've got, can a 17-year-old date a 16-year-old in Illinois? Hold on here. Age of consent, 17. In Illinois, age of consent is 17 years old. The age, I said in 2001, so I'm sure that hasn't changed.
Well, then it was rape.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
The age of consent in Illinois. Now, in 1970, some media sources reported that the age of consent in California in the 70s was 14 or 16, but in fact, it was 18. Okay, that's a different topic, different state. Yeah, I can't see anything on Illinois. I have to search a little bit. Does it matter? Well, if a 16-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, the 17-year-old may be charged with criminal sexual abuse. If two 15 or 16-year-olds have sex, they each may be charged with criminal sexual abuse of the other. The crimes, Illinois doesn't have a law called statutory rape. They don't have a law called statutory rape. Well, that's interesting. But that has more to do with around the age gap would blow that out of the water. I mean, it would overrule that, would it not? You wouldn't.
Well, you'd think so. Geez.
So that really has to pertain to. Well, so it's 16, 17 years old. He's right there. 15 into 16. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I mean, that's where these laws are pretty, because there's a lot of people who break those laws.
Yeah.
14, 15, 16.
Well,
17.
I'd have to look. I'm probably a criminal then. I just have not been caught yet. Because, of course, I fell in love with a supermodel from France when I was 13. And
speak for yourself, Frog. I was a virgin until I was married.
I'm still a virgin.
And I think at those ages, it's consent is very, when you've got two similar aged people, the consent is, I think that's prosecutions normally look at that. Well, they don't get to know about it, actually, do they? If there's consent involved.
Well, at that age, they're not even thinking about consent.
Yeah, they don't understand what consent means.
No.
But 20 years your senior, I mean.
In Rex, 20 years her senior, used that against her in that circumstance. Yeah. He was an opportunist in that regard. And I mean, it's common. It's common. Like, men love young girls. That's nothing uncommon about that. However, think of all the lines that he's crossed in this particular circumstance. I couldn't imagine any of my friends saying that, you know, how attracted they were to a young 16-year-old girl. If I saw a young 16-year-old girl who was quite developed and probably more mature for her age, if I had to say something, it would definitely be in private. Well, wow, she's really spurted or something like that. But it would be in a different context, like a parent would. But I mean, as far as why would you approach somebody so young? Could you possibly mistake a 16-year-old for a 20-year-old? I guess it's possible. Like, I mean, not in this day and age. I couldn't see that ever happening. But ever happening. But I'm sure there's exceptions. But Rex. I'd like to ask him about that Warfield thing. Got to figure out how I can get in there and have a talk with him.
Just set up another. Yeah, I've got to set up another StreamYard to get into him because he's banned me on StreamYard. So
yeah, I'm running out of accounts too. One by one.
Well, his streamer across the bottom is taking longer and longer to make a loop. So
yeah, those are the paid trolls, or no, now it's something different, isn't it?
I don't know. I've watched it a couple of times for about 30 seconds, and I just can't stand it no more. I don't want to give the guy the views. I mean, he's not worth it to me. I mean, he should have been shot a long time ago, as far as I'm concerned.
Let's get it right with the audience. Anybody who's listening in here, nobody's trying to do anything to Rex. People are just trying to get at him a little bit and ask him some questions in regards to this. If everybody knows that if you confront those sort of things, get them, you feel a lot better about it in the end. You know, if you just confront those, in this case, I guess, paid trolls, you can ban a few, but you don't have to ban all of them, Rex. I mean, nobody's going to ask you any outstanding, crazy questions. He did such a great little interview with Cleopatra D on the phone the other day. I mean, that was for him. That was a big thing.
Well, I'm not a paid troll. My channel is not monetized, and nobody's giving me money to troll.
It's it's got me thinking though, Sasquatch. I'm thinking now, if you turn this trolling thing into a business, how would it look, or how, you know?
Yeah, my troll game's not that good.
I'm sure that it's been happening. There's probably little troll farms around. I'm not that high, or I guess developed in my thinking here. And I'm not trolling Mouse. I just want to ask him a question. It ends up that I have to troll him through a different account because I'm blocked on every other one. Of course.
Yeah, I have a feeling that my channel is blocked on his YouTube. So I don't think I've been blocked in StreamYards unless he did it after the fact. The only thing, at least for me, is when I attempted to contact him as these documents came in, told him I had the document and wanted to discuss it with him before I revealed the document. And he told me, you know, he basically did what he did. I mean, with his belief system, when I told him that I had received a call from Will County prosecutor, and he couldn't believe that they called me, and that I had, you know, certain level of information, and wanted him to go over it with me, and then attempting for him, after these documents have been published, for him to come in and discuss them as well, to give us his side of the story, if you will. All of this is gone unheard. So this week did not try to attempt to contact him in any way or talk to him about it or anything that he's had to say about any of the past documentation. You know, he's made it clear that you know, with these cease and desist orders that he's flashing and threats of suing or federal indictments against me or anybody else involved in any of this, it's just a bunch of hubris and fantasy on his end.
Yeah.
None of this is going to happen. And
Well, I guess we
he's
should.
got to understand that none of this is going to happen because,
Public record.
you know, it is what it is. It's public record, and it was legally obtained, and I can produce it and publish it at my will. And unfortunately, he just doesn't seem to understand it. What he does a lot of is the same thing that I just did. He just doesn't like it because it's him.
Well, and as far as using this against him as a basis or a foundation for some sort of harassment that's going on, there's no harassment going on for those of you who aren't kind of into the story. We aren't using the documents to harass him in any way, or that's not my intention. But I guess, you know, there's a bit of it in how he feels. He feels that he's being harassed. Now, I find that hard to believe. Somebody who's served in the military in Germany, that's questionable. He says he served in 87, 88. And of course, he was discharged because his mother wanted him out of the army. She wouldn't have any of it, so she told him to come home from Germany. And I just think that's a bullshit story. But, you know, what doesn't matter. But I guess we'll see how it plays out. He's going to definitely find it to be, like this past week, for instance, he's used it as a reason, this so-called harassment, to do these 12-hour streams, 6-hour streams, 4 hours, many little ones during the day. He's bounced back a little bit and used it, but my point is that he's really getting behind the fact that there's somebody harassing him and coming after him in the background, and that just isn't the case, because who he's referring to is us, and that's just not the case, unless Desert's doing something that I don't know about.
No, not really. It's pretty straightforward. I even, put out the video of where the documents came from, how I obtained them. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not working with law enforcement. It's simple public records requests is all it is. And there's no grand conspiracy against him because he's doing what he's doing. I could care less about what he is doing.
He told you to go get him.
Well, pretty much.
I mean,
I wish we had that clip to play. That was, I remember that back in November.
He's tripled down on it ever since. I mean, he has said it many times that he gave me this challenge to go out there and find the truth, but it wasn't the truth that he wanted me to find. I don't know what he wanted me to look for or where to start, other than, he's told people that it's all online, which there's a certain level of information online, but not all. That's when I started asking for the actual documents that pertain to the case itself. And then as things progressed, and through his words, giving me the little clues of where to look next, is where I went from there. It's all been led by him. I mean, to quote S&S, he put the steering wheel in my back and has been driving this bus the whole time. How's that?
That's a good one. Good use of S&S statements. Well, that's interesting. Well, and I guess Rex is probably going to hear about this stream. So, I mean, I would do a StreamYard, and if Rex wanted to come on and just me and him and wanted to air something out on a different platform, I'd be open to that, just to put it out of the way. If it, brings him to any sort of closure around this. And of course, I don't want to silence him on YouTube. I mean, he can do what he wants. He's well within his right. But don't come on YouTube begging people for money under false pretenses. And you're working on people's emotions, Rex, based on lies. And that's how you bring this about yourself. We're not doing anything malicious to you other than proving your lies wrong. And that's exactly what they are. So everything else comes under scrutiny with this. And, there'll be different people asking him different questions, of course. But of course, to him, it's something that other people are doing, and it's not any of his doing. He's got no responsibility. Oh boy. So he seems to have found, and I got thinking about that. So he's surviving on about $20, $30 a day. And he's fairly transparent as to showing his bank account information and PayPal online to these donations that are coming in. He's really pandering to only 2 people out there that happen to always be in his chat that probably shoot him $10, $5 for food here. He's begging for his supper every night. And I mean, he's well within his right to do that. But like, good God, man, the people who are watching him do this are giving him insightful advice and good advice as to where to go and a direction to take. But he is so diluted in his own bullshit that he just is unreachable, mentally in a conversation. It's difficult.
I mean, the only thing I can say about his advice and his interpretation of law, in his own pro se cases, have found no victories. There's nothing there. All of his appeals have failed. Motions have failed. Everything that I've seen so far has failed, and you see that a lot. I see this with other genres within YouTube, that people putting out advice to others that have failed, and they seem to. I don't know. They want to give the same advice that they use for their own case to others, and maybe there'll be a different outcome. But even then, have seen no favorable outcomes when others try and use this advice. Talk about it. He can say what he's doing. He's not selling his advice. He's handing it out for free, other than ask for donations for the work that he does, and that's fine. I don't. People can give their money to whom they wish, and I think a lot of people need to get over that fact that people will give their money wherever they feel they'll give their money to. You may not like it. You may feel that certain individuals are being supported for bad behavior, but hey, that's the individual's right to do it.
Money and it is American, and that's what's great about it. However, I think most of us could agree that when that's based on lies, that person is well within the right to call that individual out and get that's where it becomes a little gray, and that's where we come in.
Yeah, sure. I mean, criticism, you're going to have to be open to criticism when you put yourself forward. I have to open myself up to criticism. I put my face on YouTube. I know my face isn't here. I got a very old PC. I don't have a camera, otherwise I'd put my face up. And the other thing that's funny to say for all of us down here, and I include this whole genre in this, us bottom of YouTubers, this is not unique within the YouTube universe. I mean, one of the larger things that has been going on recently, and you may know the name Onision. Does everybody know Onision?
Yep.
And the situations that are going on between him and Chris Hansen, and what's the other guy's name? Repsion? Is that the guy that he took into court for?
I believe so. And Chris Hansen, of course, is from NBC Dateline To Catch a Predator. And he's got great fame here on YouTube. He's got a great following of in the millions.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well known for. And
Onision
had the gall to. Yeah, Onision had the gall to file harassment and protection order against Chris Hansen and that Repsion fellow, and took him into court. And then all he did was dismiss his own case and walk out. I mean, it was just a huge grandstand of bullshit. Yeah. And so this is not unique. This is not unique where somebody gets called out on their lies and then threatens lawsuits and law enforcement and everything else. And of course, with Onision, there was the unfortunate accident of apparently a daughter that fell out of a second-story window and was injured, and all the circumstances surrounding that character. I mean, I'd never heard of him before somebody started looking into the public records, and that's publishing the 911 calls. So just to say, I mean, even us little guys down here in the bottom scalded cauldron that we call YouTube, we have our little moments as well.
But we're not. You're lower than Tammy Linlin. we're one step ahead.
Well, Satch, I'd say we've been going on, we popped in a little bit late to your stream here. We've been going on for about an hour here, and I would imagine that the word would have gotten out by now if Rex wanted to join us. And we've always done this, Sasquatch, as an opportunity for him to come in and speak his piece and mind and, to give his side of the story. And he has not taken up that invitation. So, we usually give him about an hour to figure it out. And if he hasn't shown up by now, I don't think he will.
What do you mean? I was watching another video, sorry.
Well, I don't think Rex probably won't show up. He's conspiring behind the scenes. It'll be interesting to see how he plays this, but should give him a call in a little bit, maybe off air. Really curious about that Warfield name.
Well, if he showed up, I'd let him on.
I was friends with one guy that took his wife's name because his name was like white toast, and his wife's name was more interesting than his. So really, his last name was 3 letters, and his wife's name was more exotic, I would say, in an Anglican way. So, other than that, I don't know anybody who really takes up their wife's name as an alias like that.
Must have been a stage name. I wonder if it's a stage name that he just came up with to use on stage, and that's how he was impressing the gals at the clubs that he was DJing.
But
comedian.
To me, it was flat out a use of somebody else's name that he was no longer associated with, that looks to be an ex-wife and was trying to hide exactly who he was. He gave an alias. That's just what he did. He gave an alias.
Sneaky creep. Well, I guess should we end things now, Desert Storm Sasquatch?
It's up to you guys. I'm getting watch hours. I'm liking it.
Okay.
Well, and I do want to say something to Bao. When Bao produced that Bill Norwood video, I thought that was fucking hilarious. Give a smile, Bao. Give a wave.
The dangly one. Dangly gave me that idea, believe it or not.
That was well produced, sir.
Thanks. That was funny.
I got a kick out of his triggered stream. I mean, he was having fun with it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Speaking of somebody who's got some talent on the interwebs and YouTubes and other platforms, and with this little, I don't know how much equipment you have available to you, but you produce a lot of really good content, I believe, in my opinion. And if anybody had any way of actually selling advertising on a platform, would be Bao. I mean, to actually have something viable to use and to be able to make money off of it. I believe you, Bao, would actually be able to do something like that.
Well, he's definitely smarter than the machine he works with. Me, not so much, but Bao, he's got it nailed.
I mean, I've always felt that Bao, and I know you're here in the room and you can hear me, that you're a very talented individual, and I think you could do much with your talents.
Oh man, I appreciate the kind words. Thanks for having me on panel, Sasquatch. It was really fun listening to you guys talk about this and hearing you guys' perspective on everything.
Right on. Good to have you.
Yeah, I'm gonna bow out. God dang it! I got his name on my head now.
Right on.
I got to take off too. I got to get on with my day and see what's going on with my daughter's taxes and see if we can fix whatever the issue is.
And thanks for everybody that dropped in to listen. Greatly appreciate it. give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you can. And thanks a lot.